So we saw season 2 of Cobra Kai. Been out for a little while, but we did a review of season 1. So why not do season 2?
Right.
Now, to just reiterate, because we're going to end up repeating ourselves a lot, I think.
That's what I'm worried about here.
Yeah, but the one main takeaway that I remember saying in the first video for season 1 was just to reinstate that I think it was really impressive that they continued the Karate Kid legacy, which is something we did not expect to see, and actually do a pretty good job with it. It's cool that they were able to have the old characters in it, but also introduce a whole new cast of it. Like, I think all the kids in these are really great. The main villain, Johnny Lawrence, who was the villain in the first.
Great. He's the star of the show.
Yeah, he's so good because you wouldn't have thought that you take a character from a movie like that who was kind of like a, he was all villain. He was kind of like a one-note kind of character, but now it shows his side of it. Mm-hmm. And he's a fun character to watch because there's so many contradictions with him. It's kind of funny to see, like, he's trying to keep in shape and he's doing martial arts, but he's also drinking beer in every scene, and like
he's a badass.
He's an imperfect character, and that's why we love watching imperfect characters.
I love about him, and the show's called Cobra Kai. It's not the Karate Kid. So the show is about him. It's about the Cobra Kai, and the Karate Kid aspect is sort of secondary. Mm-hmm. So it definitely is cool because of that. I'm a person who, most of the time, people will say, oh, you don't like anything new. And honestly, I see why, because like most of the time I don't. But this is an example of something that I think is done right, because I feel a lot of times they will, speaking of other franchises, they'll bring back an old franchise and they don't do it right, or like just everything's wrong. I feel like this is something that they respected the way the original was. Mm-hmm. They didn't just remake it. It's not the same thing again with like the same people recast. It's a continuation of the story, which to me is much more interesting than
starting over all the time.
They're also they also remember that it's important because it also heavily focuses on the kids, which is you watch the Karate Kid. It was a kids movie. It came off of John Alvison made Rocky.
Yeah. And it was kind of like an older kids movie, but not.
But he wanted to make like kind of one for kids or teenagers, maybe I should say.
I guess, maybe teens, young adults, maybe. Yeah.
I think there was some sort of quote. I could be wrong, but he said something about like Rocky for a younger sort of generation or that kind of thing. I think so. As a kid, what I really liked about the Karate Kid and all that was Mr. Miyagi. He was a badass. We would we probably remember on the school bus having those conversations like, oh, Yoda versus Miyagi and all that. So Mr. Miyagi. He's just a badass. He always, if Daniel's in trouble, he comes in, he's like kicking ass, all this, whatever. So Mr. Miyagi's not in this series. So what I liked about the first season is that you find out a little bit more about Mr. Miyagi, even though he's not there. So in the first season, Danielson learns a little bit more, and he's teaching Robbie the last lesson that Miyagi ever taught him, which was I think he's like balancing like on a rock or something, and he's still trying to do it, but he's like, this is the most powerful move from Miyagi-Do or whatever. Mr. Miyagi taught it before he like passed away. So in this season, I like that. In the second season, I like that they kind of continue that. It's like more things that Mr. Miyagi taught. Now, Mr. Miyagi was always about balance. In the original movie, he wanted Danielson to balance like on the boat and all that, and he's like, before you learn to punch, you must learn balance, and then knocks him off the boat. He's like, oh, Mr. Miyagi, whatever, it falls into the water, all that, So in this, Danielson is now teaching balance to his daughter and to Robbie. And how he does that is in the backyard on that like water thing.
Yeah, and both sides, even the Cobra Kai thing with they had like a cement truck where they had to like run inside of
Yes.
They're constantly inventing new ways of training that you never thought of. I think that's where a lot of the creativity is.
So I felt like that was probably something that you don't see in the movies, but there's these other things that happen that aren't in the original movies. That's like Miyagi probably had Daniel do that when he was a kid. I can imagine Miyagi and Daniel standing on that thing in the backyard doing that, even though it's not in those movies. And I think that that's interesting that they're putting in things that other things how Daniel got trained that weren't in those movies. Because if you go back to Karate Kid 2, the main thing is the drum punch, which is in the video game, how the drum comes down, and Miyagi's like, I don't want you to try that, it's a little dangerous. And then Danielson climbs the ladder, and he's like pretending, and he's like, all right, get down from there, Daniel, like it's a little dangerous. And then he like pulls it anyway, and the thing comes down, and then it hits his side and like rips his coat, and Miyagi's like, are you all right, and all that. And there's just all these different, training things, and that's from one of my favorite things about the show, because it's kind of like you get a little more of the original Karate Kid. This is why I'm doing this, because I love the Karate Kid.
Great, and but it also feels like something new, and it's very easy to get into. It has like a really easy entertainment factor. Like it kind of feels like a sitcom a little bit. They did a good job reiterating it for modern audience, for a younger audience, for modern whatever.
I think all the new actors are good. You know what? Another scene that I really liked. I don't remember the kid's name, but there's this nerdy kind of kid, and he's having a hard time. He becomes one of the Miyagi-Do karate's members. There's only 3 of them. There's Robbie, there's the daughter, and there's this other kid, and he cannot learn how to do karate for the life of him. And Daniel again tries to teach him the same things. He's like, okay, the whole wax on, wax off. He has him stand in the backyard. He's like, show me sand the floor, which is supposed to be like, I punch and you block it out of the way, Show me paint the fence, you do this, and then you block it out of the way. So when they did that back in the 80s, Danielson just got it right off the bat, pretty much. Well, that's not entirely true, but he got it like pretty quickly. With this kid, it's like, totally doesn't work. I like that they took that angle on it. Like, what if there was somebody who was not a natural at karate,
Because then you start to root for him more. Because then you want to see him. You want to see him get good. Major specific thing about season 2. First of all, John Kreese is back.
Yeah.
And I imagine if you're watching this, you've probably seen season 1. So
and he pops
just
in
to spoil, just to we're past season 1 spoilers, so definitely see season 1 before. Like, stop the video, go see it. The biggest thing about season 2 that John Kreese is a major character in it. He doesn't just pop in and then he's gone again. He stays there, and for the most part, he is unchanged. He's the same John Kreese from the old Karate Kid movies. He has some, like, there's parts where you think he might be redeeming, where he's like apologizing to Johnny Lawrence, and he fixes his trophy, which he broke in Karate Kid part 2 in the beginning. And
what I think that part's
it was a ruse. It was like it turns out that the whole thing is kind of like a ruse.
He's such a piece of shit.
John Kreese is still the same piece of shit, and he basically reinstates himself into Cobra Kai, and basically kind of like uses Johnny Lawrence to get himself back in, and then takes it all over. And he's still the same son of a bitch. So I had conflicting feelings where, okay, I like seeing Johnny Lawrence in a different light and how they kind of took his character into more dimensions. John Kreese is still the same thing, but it works. It's like,
I think they delve a little deeper into his character. You find out what he's been doing all this time for real.
You learn more about him and like what he's done since. But it was just so, I never thought in a million years I would see a John Kreese back, same actor, same, he just fits right back into the role. And
I think they had to keep him, because like he was crazy then, he's crazy now. Like he couldn't really, if they made him all of a sudden like sympathetic or something. They're doing that with Johnny, not so much with not at all with John Kreese. Yeah, so I want to speak a little bit about the. I guess we should talk about the other actors. I don't want to give any spoilers of what happens, but I think they're all really good. The actor who plays like Tommy does a good job.
They brought back a lot of characters, which was really unexpected and cool. And that they were able to give them like their spotlight finally, like actually like take characters from this movie that you might have almost thought were like, throwaway characters, but they bring them back and then they actually give them like a lot to do, and it's really impressive.
Oh no, yeah, no, I was talking a little bit more about like the new kids and characters that they brought into the show. I mean,
the new kids, they're amazing. They're like they're the future of the franchise. Like this is like proof you can keep it going.
Yeah. And we're talking a lot about Johnny Lawrence and Danielson, and there's a lot of great scenes with them. I like the scene at the restaurant where they're holding like the menus like this and looking at each other like that. There's a lot of funny stuff that happens. It's really awkward, and the wives make them like and girlfriend make them sit next to each other. That's
a great scene. And actually, if I were to if you've been to film school and they just teach you like camera angles and stuff and be like 180 degree rule, this character is looking screen left, so this character has to be looking screen right, and you see so much stuff, you're so used to seeing the same kind of setups, but this thing, they have it set up where it's like Johnny and like his girlfriend are sitting at one table, and then Daniel and his wife are sitting at one table, and they're both across from each other, so there's these angles where you see Daniel looking at his wife, then you see him looking at like Johnny, and the way they cut it all together, it's really good because sometimes where he's saying something, but it's kind of just like backhanded, but he's like looking this way, but he really means something to Johnny. It's a really well cut together.
It's so funny how they're feuding still.
Yeah.
But they're just like eating dinner.
It's so great. It's really good. And I love those moments where they start to become friends again. Even though it always keeps going, it's like the pendulum keeps swinging. But yeah, I really love those dynamics, just the good and the bad between them.
Yeah, the show, like largely though, half the show is these kids. It's not just about them, and I feel like it's that's a good way to get kids into it. Like I feel like this, like we were saying, I think it's a good show for adults and kids. It's not just all about that. I really liked that. So the spoiler alert, by the way. This is gonna be.
Do you want to get into spoilers now? Because I have like 3 things in spoilers I want to go.
I want to say one thing.
So spoilers. Let's just make it really clear. Like we're going to talk about spoilers now.
The end of season 1, Miguel wins. So then coming back into this, you would think, oh, Johnny Lawrence, the trainer, is going to be happy, like, oh yeah, you kicked ass, you're a badass. It's not like that at all. He's like,
even at the end of the season 1, he like feels bad. Like, remember, like he's like kind of like,
I kind of forget a little bit about season 1, but I like that he's like, no, you want to fight an enemy and defeat your enemy when they're at their strongest. So it's like he's continually like kind of coming down on them to like be badass. He wants them to be badasses, but at the same time, he's not like John Kreese where he's totally evil.
Johnny is a more fair Cobra Kai. He has a different vision of Cobra Kai than John Kreese. John Kreese is the strike first, no mercy, everything. He's just a complete motherfucker. But Johnny Lawrence is more balanced with it. He's still an ass, but he's more fair about it.
He even says at one point, he's like, strike fast, strike hard, like no mercy. He's like, yeah, but sometimes you can show like mercy, and like John Kreese would never like in a million years, But okay, so you have season 2 spoilers.
Oh, just a few. Okay, so big spoiler: the character Tommy comes back from the first movie, and he's the one who has the famous line, put him in a body bag or whatever. Get him a body bag. Yeah. And they give this character like a whole episode, which is done quickly, but he's a cancer patient and. They give him like a lot of like just emotional scenes, and he gets to actually like rekindle with the group again. And if you've seen it, he dies at the end of this episode, so it happens pretty quick. He doesn't last very long, but when he dies, they put him in a body bag, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. Is that dark humor? Like, what is that? Was that intentional, or was it I just reading into it?
I think so, because you have to imagine that this is an actor who was in Karate Kid. He had a smaller role in the movie back then. He wasn't in Karate Kid 2. He wasn't in Karate Kid 3. He was only in the first Karate Kid, and a pretty small role. But I am sure his whole life, people be like, "Oh, you're the kid from the Karate Kid. Oh, the body bag part." He must have been hearing that line his whole life. So I am sure when they asked him to come back, it was probably like, "Put me in a fucking body bag." I would imagine. I think it's dark humor.
But it's interesting because when in that scene, they kind of have they have one foot in each. Like on one side they're trying to be like emotional, and then the other side they're making a joke. Like it's kind of unless it wasn't intentional.
Yeah, maybe we're wrong. Maybe it wasn't intentional. But
either way, the character who said the body bag line is seen in a body bag. So that I never thought I'd see in a million years again.
Yeah.
Even thought I'd be alive in a million years.
And if it's not a joke, it's very coincidental.
There was a huge high school fight at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it like throws all reality out the window. Sure. Where it's like, okay, look, if you got this far with it, it's like not trying to be serious at all. There's this huge fight scene in the high school where every character, anybody who had a feud with anybody, they're all fighting in the halls and they're smashing like the trophies and everything.
I mean,
and it's like,
do you remember think of the end of Karate Kid 2 where he's like fighting Chosen in this big arena and they're all like, it's like, it's not a realistic, and it wasn't then and it's not now. You know, so it's fantasy.
It's remembering that it's like, okay, look, this is like, you know, not to be taken serious. This is just like completely
it's just a fun show.
Yeah, because like one kid has Miguel who gets seriously injured and they leave the series on that cliffhanger. In reality, I mean, okay, every kid would have been injured. Like, why was he the only one who got hurt? When the other, like the girl with the spikes on her fist was about to like ram the spikes into the other girl's fucking jaw. I'm like, okay, geez. And then this kid just falls off a ledge and then he's, you know, the whole thing is just throw reality out the window, you know?
Yeah.
Not to mention, why does nobody come to stop it? They don't, like, call the cops or, like, this entire, like, fight scene happens.
They kind of do.
The end of it.
They pull out a teacher. I mean, they're, like, doing backflips and stuff. This teacher's like, I don't get paid enough. Like, I didn't blame that teacher, by the way. And then the one security officer does come out.
He picks the kid up on his, like, shoulders, and then he's still fighting with the other kid.
Well, you gotta think, I mean, like, how many... There was, like, 40 kids fighting. Like, you can't... They probably don't... In a school, they probably don't have that many security like people. So by the time the cops got there, I mean, I don't know. It worked to me. It's ridiculous, but I mean, it worked.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to get that ridiculous, but still, it's like, okay, by that point, it's like just whatever.
I thought it was great because it was like it was building up to that, and you have all these kids and stuff like, and each one had to go against the kid that was like their opposite. Yeah, you know.
Now here's the thing, and this is just me. I think I don't like television shows that end on really big cliffhangers. I just feel like I would have liked to see more closure to it, because otherwise it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And don't get me wrong, I'd love to see season 3. I'm really excited. You know, I'm in it for more. But
sure, as long as it's good, I'm in it for more.
Take season 1, for example. There wasn't too much hanging. It was like John Kreese comes at the end, and that's like the teaser for season 2. It's a big teaser. But this one, it's like, okay, you have a kid who's like in the hospital, who's like, oh, is he going to live? Is he going to die? Then you have like John Kreese, like kicking Johnny Lawrence out of Cobra Kai or whatever. And it's like, and then he gets that call on his phone and it's the girl from the first movie. And it's like, it just had way too much at the end. I thought it just...
I mean, I didn't think it was too much. I mean, unless I forget, there was really 2 things. The one kid's in the hospital, and then Allie might come back.
But then there's also like there's also, is Johnny Lawrence going to get Cobra Kai back, and I guess that's just the way TV is. I guess that's what people like. People like these like huge cliffhangers. I don't like that. I like when I feel like the story could end here.
Okay.
This could, let's say if season 3 wasn't renewed, it is. I think they are making 3. But let's say it wasn't. The Evil Dead series.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other thing, actually. But the final episode of the Evil Dead series, they ended on this big cliffhanger, and then it didn't get renewed, and they didn't follow up. Although that's kind of a bad example, because Army of Darkness, the original ending of Army of Darkness ended on this huge cliffhanger. I felt it was kind of a throwback to that, but that's a different thing.
It helps shows to end on a cliffhanger. I think Star Trek The Next Generation wasn't doing super hot in the first few seasons, but when they had that Borg episode and they had that big cliffhanger, that got such good ratings that it brought them back for a 4th, and that's when it lasted longer than the original series.
Otherwise, if it doesn't, then you're fucked with this cliffhanger that doesn't, you know.
So I think that, you know, you kind of, with the TV shows, they want to come back for their next season, so they have to do that. I'm gonna say I felt a little differently than you did. I totally understand all your points. I actually felt a little let down that there wasn't enough, believe it or not, because there's so many things about the Karate Kid that I still want to see. I mean, Allie coming back is cool, but like Daniel's married, so I don't think there's too much that can happen there. I mean, maybe, who knows, but like, and then, so I would imagine if she comes back, she's gonna get together with Johnny somehow, which I guess that's interesting, but like, I more wanted to see like Chosen come back. Or
Terry Silvers.
And that's where I was getting. Like, I don't know.
But that could happen. That could happen regardless of how you ended this one. Like I didn't need the story that was already happening to like not end, to like just kind of abruptly stop it and be like, okay, you had all these things up in the air at stop. That has nothing to do with if Terry Silvers is going to come back. That could always happen.
So you would have liked everything to wrap up.
I would like to have it wrapped up, but then maybe
just Terry Silver after that.
Anybody, or even the call from Allie, or whatever, Allie. Have that come in at the end, but have that just be like, here's like the ending, but then here's this little teaser. So, which is kind of what they did with season 1. It was like it pretty much ended. Like it could still go on, but it kind of ends. And then John Kreese walks in and it's like, well, here's your teaser for season 2.
I thought it was really interesting how that happened because, Johnny's all upset about Miguel and all that. And then he had been on Facebook or something. He gets this friend request from Allie, but he's pissed and he doesn't know it. So he throws his phone. It ends up in the beach or whatever. And he like leaves. And then the last thing you see the shot of the phone. And I thought, when I saw that, my first thought was like, oh, that is all you're going to see of Allie. Because, like, he threw the phone away. He's never going to know that he got that message. I'm like... And then season 3, we'll see what happens with Miguel and maybe, like, somebody else will come in. So I thought, like, that meant she's not ever going to be on the show. Like, maybe the actress denied or something like that. But then I saw Ralph Macchio in an interview or something like that. And he's like, oh, well, maybe we'll see her next year or whatever. Kind of like you're going to see her. Like, he kind of gave it away. Which, I don't know if you saw, what's his name? The actor who plays Palpatine, but he kind of did the same thing at like the Star Wars convention. He'll never come back. Or Ian McDermott. He kind of did the same kind of thing. Like maybe the Emperor will come back. Kind of.
That suckers me because that's like my favorite Star Wars character. So I'm back.
Yeah.
Cobra Kai. Anyway, regardless of how it ended, I'm totally on board. Tony's editing. I could almost feel like the playhead coming right now. He's about to hit delete on us right now. So he's like, sorry, Tony. We
7 minutes left on the card.
Sorry, Tony.
I think we got cut off 10 minutes ago, so we can stop talking now.
Yeah. All right.